Former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Hump Day Wednesday. Joined now by our good friend Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition. How's it going, brother?
Hey, Jim. Hey, Todd. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Getting by. Looking, getting back, athletes getting back on campus now. Football season is becoming more of a reality, hopefully, and stays that way. But more importantly, now the talk begins on who's doing what, who's where, and all that. And you had a nice piece out yesterday talking about Indiana, what's going to define success for them, what do they have to do this year? I think there was a question on Twitter about that, but where do they have to go? And me personally, I think that they have to improve on that record last year, mainly because that record they should have won 11 games last year. As silly as that sounds to say, it's actually true. But I looked at their schedule, man. They should go unbeaten at home. And I'm not going to say they should go up and beat Wisconsin. I think they'll have the opportunity to, but they could easily start off 7-1 this college football season. Yeah,
and you look at how they open the season, right? The first big test is obviously right off the bat. They go to Wisconsin. You have an opportunity there where this is a program that Wisconsin, you see, as the season goes on, they tend to get better and better as the year goes on. So maybe Indiana can catch them early enough in the year, catch them off guard. Maybe they pull an upset there. Then you look at the next 6 games: Western Kentucky, Ball State, UConn, Maryland, Rutgers, Michigan State. I think it would be considered somewhat of a disappointment if they don't start at least 6-1, maybe 7-0. And you talk about 7-0. Potentially 6-1, and then you welcome Penn State into Memorial Stadium. That could be a huge game. So when you look at how the schedule lays out for Indiana, much like last season, the Hoosiers could lock up bowl eligibility before the calendar turns to November, before we even get to Halloween. So, and I think that when you have 16 returning starters, a team that's played in a bowl game, a team that won some big games, beat Nebraska on the road a season ago. If you give that team in that final stretch, I know it's tough. You got Penn State, Ohio State, Illinois, Michigan, Purdue. The only team that didn't go bowling that year was Purdue, and that's a rivalry game. So it's a tough final stretch. But when you give them absolutely nothing to lose in that final month of the season, it can be a really dangerous team. And we already know that when they have 16 returning starters, a lot of those offensive weapons returning from last season, they can score some points. I think the question is going to be, how much does their defense improve? They got a huge boost with Javon Swan coming to the defensive line. They got 9 defensive returning starters. Tywan Mullen, maybe one of the best secondary players in the Big Ten next season. So this is a team, I think, I'm not going to say they take a step back if they don't hit the 8-win mark this season, because I think you have to develop consistency with a program like Indiana. But at the same time, you have to at least be 6-1 heading into that Penn State game. Lock up bowl eligibility, and like I said, if you have nothing to lose in those final 5-6 games of the season, this can be a really dangerous team in the month of November.
I agree with most of that. I think that they absolutely should be 6-1 to start the season, minimum. And that's if they aren't able to pull off the upset at Wisconsin. That's a tough task, but believe me. But the biggest thing is, to me, they have to find an upset on the road to I think to make that next step, they have to find that road upset. Last year, the one that was there, they did get the one at Nebraska, but Michigan State was one that was on the table there. Penn State was really on the table for them. A little tougher road schedule this year for Indiana to do that, but I think the opportunities will be there for this team.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, though, I don't think Wisconsin, when you consider all that they lost, obviously they have to replace Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs we've seen this this past decade, and they have some issues at the quarterback position. Let's face it, Jack Cohn was good, but he wasn't great. So if you're able to catch them early, again, this is where those bowl practices for Indiana and having so many returning starters and Wisconsin losing so much of their experience and not having that spring practice to get some of those guys developed. From a talent standpoint, Wisconsin probably trumps Indiana, but from the experience standpoint, Indiana might be able to sneak up to Madison and get a win in that opener. How huge would that be to kind of set the tone for the season? But I think what you're probably looking at for the road upset here is, I think we talk about this every year, and it's just like a broken record, but the best chance you have to get a win on the road against a premier program is going to be that next to last weekend of the season against Michigan. And Indiana has played them tough, except for, last season under Jim Harbaugh. I think they have a great opportunity. I think Michigan's going to take a step back. They're replacing an entire offensive line. They have to welcome in a new quarterback with Shea Patterson gone. The defense is going to be good at Michigan, but they've got a lot of question marks on the offensive side of the football. So I think Indiana's best opportunity will be to pull an upset against Michigan on the road. Ohio State I think Ohio State has the potential to be even better than they were a season ago. So I don't know that that's a possibility, but you never know. But I would think Wisconsin week 1, Michigan towards the end of the season, those are going to be the two best opportunities. And if you can steal one of those, that's really going to set the tone for your program, not only this season, but then moving forward.
Going 0-6, 0-7, 0-8 against Ohio State does not leave a very good taste in the powers that be, in the mouth of the powers that be at Michigan. But can you imagine if Jim Harbaugh loses to Indiana at home? I mean, you add 0-7 of Ohio State on top of that. That would not be a good look for Jim Harbaugh, and I think it is very possible.
It's very possible too. And the interesting thing about this is almost, Jim Harbaugh is almost playing with house money this year because of the pandemic, because of all the money that schools have lost. I don't think that you're going to see a coach, unless something, out of the blue happens where we have a legal issue or NCAA violation issue. I don't think you're going to see any coaching changes in the Big Ten this year, maybe even in college football, based on performance. I think there's just too much money at stake. And when you look at the buyouts that some of these coaches have, most of them, are in 8 figures. So it's going to be really hard to imagine a coaching change at Michigan. So if Jim Harbaugh had the opportunity to lose to Indiana and keep his job and then go 0-6 against Ohio State, this would be the year, simply because I don't see a coaching change happening anywhere in the Big Ten just because of all the money that's already been lost from the NCAA tournament. Who knows what could happen moving forward with the college football season and obviously the pandemic still across the country. So I do think it's going to be possible. Obviously, that's always a look-ahead game for Michigan because they have Ohio State that next weekend, but Indiana has played them so tough. You just think every year they're going to get the job done, both at home and on the road. Like I said, with the exception of last year, Michigan was playing about as well as it had. But I think IU does have a legitimate chance to pick apart that Michigan defense this year and get a win on the road against the Wolverines. So that's a great opportunity for Tom Allen to say, hey, we're Indiana, we're here. Last season wasn't a flash in the pan. We're going to be able to knock off some of these blue blood programs. And like I said, I think Indiana has a potential to be the number 3 team in the Big Ten East this season. I think Ohio State and Penn State are probably a level above everybody else in the Big Ten this year. But Indiana has an opportunity to take over Michigan State and Michigan for that 3rd spot this year. And if they do that, that'll really help them in recruiting, and that'll really help them propel moving forward to the 2021 season.
Absolutely. And the Big Ten is unique. And one of the wildest stats is that every Big Ten team has double-digit returning starters. So that doesn't with Indiana having double-digit returning starters, that's great. But, you're like, oh, well, everybody does. But the exceptions, you look at the top, the teams at the top with returning starters are teams that are fighting they're fighting to move up. Like we just talked about Indiana, Purdue, I think it's Maryland, all returning the most starters in the league. Are we looking at, is it time for some of these teams to start floating? Indiana's been trying to get up there. Maryland, the recruiting has been going well for them for a couple of seasons. And we know about Purdue and their injuries, and they've got a lot of starters back. And if they're healthy, that's going to be a team that probably has success this year that didn't have last year.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there's no excuse really for a lot of teams. When you have this many returning starters, you don't really have an excuse, to not take that next step to at least get to bowl eligibility. And you look at the two teams at the top, you look at Northwestern and Purdue, both returning 17 starters. Those were teams, Northwestern has been consistently good under Pat Fitzgerald. Last season, they dealt with a handful of injuries. They had a tough schedule. So, excuse me, you look at Northwestern and Purdue, those are two teams that I think at least have to be bowl eligible this season to show that they're taking steps in the right direction. You talked about Maryland. They have a healthy number of returning starters this season, but at the same time, that's still a brand new program under Mike Locksley. He has to get some of his guys in there. From a talent standpoint and experience standpoint, Maryland really doesn't have the same caliber of talent and experience that those other teams, as we mentioned, Northwestern, Purdue, and Indiana have returning this season. So I don't expect Maryland to take a big jump or some of these other teams like Rutgers to take a big jump. But teams like Indiana, Purdue, Northwestern, they have all the opportunity in front of them to at least take the next step to get to bowl eligibility, if you're talking about Purdue and Northwestern. And for potentially Indiana, we talk about a 6-1, 7-0 start. Maybe they do get to 9 wins. Maybe they do get to 10 wins this season. They finally get the monkey of losing all their bowl games and finally get that off their back and win a bowl game. I think that the opportunity is there for a lot of these teams to take that next step, to get to bowl eligibility, to start to show that this is a much deeper conference than we had, say, at the beginning of the decade when it was primarily, just Ohio State, Michigan, and Wisconsin. I think that this is an opportunity now for the Big Ten to kind of flex its muscle, get 10, 11 teams in the bowl games this season, and what a message that would send when you talk about the conferences and where they rank. I think the Big Ten is going to be the deepest. I don't know that it'll be the best, but I think it's going to be the deepest conference in college football this season, just because you look at the experience returning, the talent that's coming in from the recruiting standpoint. And I've mentioned this several times. I think the coaching from top to bottom in the Big Ten is better than anywhere else in the country right now.
Something else I just thought of, Peyton Ramsey will have the opportunity to suit up to beat Purdue in back-to-back years on two different teams.
Yeah, you got to think he's going to take that one personally. And what was the biggest issue last year for Northwestern? They didn't have a quarterback who could consistently get the ball to the receivers. Now, Northwestern doesn't have the amount of playmakers, and they've got 17 returning starters, but a lot of those guys weren't really all that productive. So it's going to be interesting to see what Peyton Ramsey does, how much of an impact he can have. I think he can help them win 3 or 4 games more than they did a season ago. I don't expect Northwestern to make this leap back up to the top of the Big Ten West, winning 8, 9, 10 games this season. I don't think they have that much talent. I think they're still really young. But the quarterback position, when you look at what Peyton Ramsey did last season, he had a knack for moving the chains. He's not a guy who can stretch the field deep. He's not a guy who's going to throw 75-yard touchdown passes regularly, but he's a guy that can pick up 10 yards. He can find an open receiver. He can, move the chains with his feet. And that's really what Northwestern lacked last season. And, Northwestern got beat by Purdue on a last-second field goal, so that left a bad taste in Northwestern's mouth. And obviously, Peyton Ramsey, having spent 3 years at Indiana, he's already got the rivalry. That's going to be a personal rivalry for him, and they go to Purdue this year. He has an opportunity then to beat Purdue on their home turf 2 years in a row. Not just beat Purdue, but beat Purdue on their home turf 2 years in a row. So it'll be personal for him. That should be a really fun matchup. But I expect Peyton Ramsey to have a successful season at Northwestern just because of everything we saw from him at Indiana in his 3 years. He's a fighter. He's a competitor. He's going to help Northwestern get back to bowl eligibility and kind of see more of that consistency we've seen under Pat Fitzgerald in Evanston for the last decade plus.
Hey, Jim, what's a more, or both of you, Jim, Dustin, both of you, what's a more successful season? For Indiana to have 9 regular season wins and play in a really big bowl game against a team like Auburn and lose, I'm just using Auburn as an example, against a good team and lose, or have a 7 or 8 win season and play another team similar to Tennessee and win the bowl game. What's a more success? Which season would you choose? 9 regular season wins and lose a bowl game, or 7 or 8 regular season wins and win the bowl game?
Good question. For me personally, I'd go with the bowl win just just for this program, just to give it confidence, just to give it a catapult forward kind of a thing. Although I know it meant you lost an extra game to get there, but ending the season with a win is gigantic. But not just that, winning a bowl game, something they haven't done. So I got to go with that for this program.
What do you think, Dustin?
For me, if you look at Indiana's schedule, Wisconsin, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan. So if you're telling me that they won 9 games, that means they had to have beaten one of those 4 teams. And that would be, to me, that's bigger from a recruiting standpoint. That's more important to show that you can beat those blue blood programs. I know that the losing bowl games has gotten a monkey off its back, but if you can get to, say, the Outback Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, one of those high-end bowls where you're playing on potentially New Year's Day, even if you lose, that means you beat either Wisconsin, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and now you're in a bowl game that you have never really played in, in a really long time. So to me, I think getting to that level, having a win over one of those 4 blue blood programs and having 9 wins on your resume, I think that is would be the bigger accomplishment, would be the bigger selling point for Tom Allen. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. I go back and forth because I look at it and I'm like, I agree with everything Dustin just said. Like I feel that way about all of that, and I almost look at last season and I'm like, the Outback Bowl was the absolute best case scenario, biggest bowl they could have possibly qualified for. And we were all excited that they got picked for that. But would they have been better off to go to the Pinstripe Bowl or some smaller bowl and got a win?
No, they should have won that game.
But they didn't. So I'm just saying, I agree with you totally. They should have won the game.
But the reason that they lost that game, they would have lost. They could have lost the freaking Quick Lane Bowl or whatever bowl. So they didn't get outplayed. So. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and I understand because of the confidence. Confidence breeds confidence, man. It does, and so that's what I'm saying. That bowl win, it's great for catapulting. But I agree with what Dustin says too. I mean, hell, I want to win. I want to beat Michigan. I want to beat Ohio State. I want to beat somebody. You have to show that you're there, like Dustin said, that you can do that you can compete with these guys. And they did show that last year, I think. They even in the Outback the game, the Gator Bowl, losing it, they should have won. So they more than showed they should have competed. They should have beat Penn State, should have beat Michigan State last year. So the moral victories are over, baby. It's time to get the real ones.
Yep, I'm with you. I think I'd rather have the 9 regular season wins. I think I agree with that.
It would sure look good. Dustin, what else is going on? I think in starting, I guess we're getting close to being like 10 weeks out, Dustin. But maybe we'll start doing a team by team game, IU versus this team and such. Look at each team as we go forward.
Each opponent.
Yeah, that would be great. And we're getting closer and we're getting more real. And then the NCAA is supposed to decide if we get that 6-week plan to get the season started on time. So yeah, it's an exciting time. I know a few weeks, maybe a few months ago, we thought, are we going to have college football this season? But players are amped up, coaches are amped up. We're going to have college football, and it's going to be great to get a return to normalcy, especially with what's going on right now with the MLB and the NBA not being able to, get back on the playing field or court for whatever reason. So I'm excited. I think everybody else should be excited. And yeah, we can definitely break down this IU schedule in the coming weeks and lay out a realistic win total for the Hoosiers in 2020.
Hey, is this, with this season being all goofy, and goofy for everybody, but still being goofy, and it kind of takes some of the advantages away. It doesn't take talent away. But is this a year of potential big upset that we could potentially see 1 or 2 gigantic upsets because of the start to this season?
I think actually it goes the other way. The reason I say that is, it depends to me. If you look at the front of the jersey, right?
Just pull back on talent.
Exactly. If you look back at Indiana, Wisconsin, because of what Wisconsin lost, and I'll go back to this point, if you look at what Wisconsin lost and the fact that they didn't have those 15 spring practices, and off the top of my head, I don't know how many they got through, so I'll plead ignorance on that. But Indiana has a great chance to upset Wisconsin. But if you look at Ohio State, I mean, there's just so much talent there that I don't think that's Indiana needs those practices in the spring more than Ohio State does. So
I don't think there's a snowball's chance in
hell against Indiana against Ohio State this year. But, of course, I don't think that a lot of teams have a snowball's chance in hell against Ohio State this year. It has nothing to do with Indiana. Now, you want to talk about a game I think that they have to win? You have to beat – or games – I think you have to beat not just Michigan State, but Penn State at home.
Whew, see, they'll have a great opportunity for that. But I do think Penn State this year is going to be on Ohio State's level.
Really? Oh, wow.
What they have returning in the backfield, you add Kirk Shiraka, who was the offensive coordinator at Minnesota. You able to see what he was able to do with Tanner Morgan, who a year ago lost his starting job to a redshirt walk-on freshman. And Minnesota doesn't typically have the same talent, obviously, as teams like Penn State, and they were able to pull off the upset. I think that addition, they added Taylor Stubblefield as the wide receivers coach. They have a loaded running back room. Sean Clifford's in his second year. They have the best defensive player in college football, in my opinion, in Micah Parsons. They have a lot of really good defensive ends. I think Penn State's going to be on that Ohio State level, so that's a tough one for me. I'm not discounting IU having a chance because I think Indiana's going to be able to put up some points on Penn State this season. But to me, I go back. I think, again, Wisconsin and Michigan are the two best. Now, that means Indiana, to me, they have to play Penn State well. You can't get beat, 42 to 10 on your home turf like they did Ohio State a year ago. But pulling that upset off against Penn State, I think that's going to be a little bit trickier just because, in my personal opinion, Penn State's going to be really good this season and may even be able to take down Ohio State this year. Obviously, we'll see. But, I think the Wisconsin and Michigan's your better chance to pull off an upset this year if you're the Hoosiers.
There you go. Dustin and I can't disagree with much of that. Appreciate you joining us. Make sure you check him out, Saturday Tradition. Look forward to having him with us each and every week. We normally have you on Thursdays. Our schedule got screwed up this week. Maybe move back to that. I don't know. Wednesday's always great too, but we'll see however it works out for Dustin. But we appreciate you, brother.
Hey, Jim, Todd, thanks again, and have a great week.
This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.